I'm going to just ask that we start 536 Commercial Street. Dan is already in position, so I will turn it over to you.
Mr. President, members of NEWRA, thank you for having me tonight. My name is Daniel Toscano, attorney at law. My office is located at 15 Broad Street, Suite 610, Boston, Mass. To my immediate left is Chris Patsky, the architect in regards to this particular project, and we represent Allison Bonney and her husband, Mike Bonney. Mike Bonney, unfortunately, could not be here tonight, sends his apologies, but we have the better half. We have Allison here. Tonight, we're respectfully requesting your support to really remove a proviso that's there at 536 Commercial Street. There's a proviso in the roof deck that the roof deck will not exceed 150 square feet. We have filed a long form application to remove that proviso of 150 square feet and make the roof deck approximately 367 square feet, so a little bit more than 200 square feet. At some point, Chris will go through the plan with you, but the majority of the plan, as you see, it's not all roof deck. There's a lot of greenery, there's a lot of green space, and that plan was done, it's taken into consideration the privacy rights of this gentleman, Dr. Green. I think I saw Dr. Green come in, so you'll hear from Dr. Green tonight. As we adjusted the plan, the adjustments and the amendments to the plan haven't been made yet, but at some point, Chris will talk about we're removing that to add a little bit more privacy to Dr. Green. To give you a little history of this particular property, 536 Commercial Street was always a 3-family and a commercial. It was 3 families and 1 commercial space. At some point back in prior to 2012, the occupancy changed to a single-family residential unit. If you don't know where this property is, it's directly across the street from our Little League field, our 3 bocce courts, outdoor bocce courts. It's now a single-family residential unit. The old owner, Dr. Khan, petitioned to have that roof deck, and there was a lot of concerns, and the ZBA put the proviso that it not exceed 150 square feet. The Bonnies purchased it almost 2 years ago and been there ever since. This is their home. They plan on spending many, many years there, and they want to use this beautiful outdoor space a little bit more. So that's a little bit of the history behind it. They've been there 2 years. It's owner occupied, and I'm going to just pass it on to Chris to talk a little bit about how the plan looks and what was existing, I think. So sure. Talk about what's existing now and then what we'd like to do.
Currently, what's existing on the site is head house or an access, a way of accessing the roof itself. There's a small deck which occupies approximately this area of the deck, and the remainder of the deck is a black. It's just a black roofing material. The Bonnies approached us and wanted to be able to both beautify the area and also provide an opportunity for them to really take advantage of their entire property. So what we proposed for them was to really rebuild the deck in what we think is a much more elegant and beautiful way, and to also kind of extend the deck into this area, which is currently just, as I said, a black roof material, and allow them to take advantage of when they purchased the home. The roof was pumped for water as well as gas, so the Bonnies expressed the desire to take advantage of that, put in a grill, and have a little counter. Taking into account the context of the site, we wanted to really respect the neighbors' privacy and also create a beautiful setting for the Bonnies to enjoy their roof deck. So we really looked at creating this green bezel within which the deck sits. So we have an upper deck area here, which is basically just reconfiguring their current deck as a seating space. We have a passage area here, which is not an area that's occupied. What we tried to do to reduce the massing of that area is just start to infill with vegetation that would soften that. The Bonnies currently have an improvised storage space, so we wanted to provide them with something that was a little bit more refined and elegant for them to store things like cushions. And then we also wanted to provide them some sort of seating area that is surrounded by plants. And what we're doing is we're evoking a sort of very traditional New England landscape with plants like hydrangea, things that you would find in a typical New England garden. Working with Dr. Green, we have modified the plan a little bit. It's been since Tuesday, so we haven't been able to revise plans. But we're looking at things like being able to pull back the deck a little bit, provide a little bit more vegetation along this area so that Dr. Green looks out at more of a green space than a deck space. And we also talked about taking the storage unit and putting it really in this location where there's a blank brick wall and taking the added buffer that we have with this planting and placing it in this location so that there's a little bit more privacy for both the bodies and the trees.
Just so you know, when we talk about the storage, it's approximately 3 feet wide, only about 18 inches high, so it's not a big storage container. So it's just enough where they store the cushions here. I think Chris will probably elaborate a little bit more. The reason why we have some green space in this decking area, it was just taken into consideration the 2 windows here from Dr. Green. So this won't be utilized as a deck area where people are really walking on, standing on, or putting some chairs. It was, taken into consideration as privacy rights. So it won't be utilized really as a full deck. So that's all I have to say on that. I mean that it's simple. It's beautiful. I think they're owner occupied. They've been here for 2 years. They've been good neighbors, and I think we'll hear from Dr. Green because we are going to make some changes that are not shown on this plan. Take away this here, so it's just more green space.
So I'm going to open it up to questions. First from abutters. So I'm going to ask if the abutters want to ask questions, if they could identify themselves first.
I'm Reginald Green.
Okay.
I live at 540 Commercial Street. This will be our 32nd year there. And we fought very hard not to have a roof deck in 2000. I forget the year. 2012. But ultimately, we sort of lost that fight, and the deck was limited to 150 square feet because there were problems with direct viewing of our interior and the living room and the sitting room. So the deck has been there in that shape. This plan, at first, I was very concerned because it was much bigger than the original plan and would allow people to come closer to where we live. And this plan will allow people to come closer. We are about 9 feet, I think, our window from the 9 to 11, I'm not quite sure, to the window. And it does partially overlap the window to our living room and sitting area. But if the shrubbery is moved inward so that it covers the border with the window, then it reduces the chance that someone can have a direct, straight view in. It would be a like view. Our discussions have been to do that. One of the discussions I didn't understand for the movement of the trade of shrubbery for deck space on the eastern side. I thought that there would be double shrubbery. The important thing about these plans are not only where the deck is, but the shrubbery, if it weren't, it's integral to the shrubbery, because if the shrubbery is not there, it allows a direct, intimate view of space. We would like some kind of assurance that this would be continued and there wouldn't be some third bite of the apple, which would make it impossible.
Well, I guess that we're on the topic of questions. I have a question coming from your comments, Doctor. The question is, are you have the shrubs, you have some movement that you've talked to, but is that part of the application? Is there, when you go to the ZBA, are you basically saying we are committing to this floor plan and this shrubbery ratio? Or is it just a, hey, there happens to be shrubbery, but we could rip it out tomorrow?
The application does not specifically say that this is the plan to be approved and it's not to change. The bodies have made a commitment to Dr. Green that if that will be the plan and will be amended to reflect more green space on the end, take away that little deck area here. Bodies been there 2 years and they were neighbors, haven't had any problems in making a commitment. We'll work with Dr. Green and I'll work with the ZBA and the VRA in terms of the design that it stays the same.
And I can just add, it's one thing that we haven't had in our discussions with the butters, but for landscape architects, a huge issue that's coming up just contextually in our society is global warming, the idea of sustainable design, all sorts of things. Ethically, as landscape architects, we push more green space, particularly on rooftops like this, where we're facing urban environments where you have black roofs that are creating heat pockets and things like that. So it's something that we advocate with our clients and for our clients to make a nicer space for both them and for their neighbors. So while it's not guaranteed that they will that the shrubs will be maintained, it's really in everybody's best interest that they are.
But you're taking because as of right now, even though there's a 150-foot deck, they still have access to their entire roof, and they get as close as they want. This, with here, with the shrubbery and the storage, with the storage is 3 feet wide, the shrubs are about 3 foot wide, and then that little walkway is about 3 feet, probably like Dr. Green said, maybe 9 feet away, but we wanted to just move that, by moving that storage over and adding more green space and provide more privacy to Dr. Green and the bodies, so we less likely to get closer to that window. And that's why the green space.
Question? Any other questions?
Just have a question, John. I don't think you're going to move or sell the building, but under those conditions, what happens if you sell the building? Are those requirements in place, or just a vertical agreement?
If, as of right now, I tell you the bodies have no intentions of selling, they've
I mean,
been a
that's
long
not-
time. But the question,
That's not the answer
but the
to the
answer
question.
would be, if there's no proviso, probably, once you get the extension of the roof deck, it doesn't seem to be a commitment that, then if there's a next person, they have to stick with some green space. But we'll work with the VRA and the ZBA, see if we can do something.
Excuse me, anybody owns a black Lexus?
I'd like to.
They got moved to, someone got to leave the block.
Okay, please. Yeah.
Leslie, that 58 Snowmobile Street. I'm wondering, as a compromise, why you would just put the deck on the inside and the shrubbery on the outside. Then there's no, instead of expanding the deck full and imposing on someone's possible privacy, why wouldn't you just put the deck on the inside and put the shrubbery on the outside, and then
That's
you're
what
within
we're
the
doing.
restrictions?
I don't understand
I
that.
think the shrubbery is going to be on the outside of the deck.
So the fencing or the roofing deck, the petition, the fence of the deck
The
will
railing.
be on the inside and the shrubbery will be on the outside?
Well, no, and we can't do that because of issues of life safety. What we're doing is we have to, if you're referring to the guardrail has to be on the farthest portion, because I'm sure nobody in the building would want to have somebody fall off the roof of a 4 or 5 story building. Certainly insurance carriers would not want that.
Why would you be on the outside? You can water from standing inside, you can water.
But you have to do things like weed, there is some maintenance that's involved, so yeah.
Are there any other butters first?
The butters, okay,
All right,
you're
Dave
on.
Kubiak, on the issue of the
what might hold you to a certain design. I understand you're seeking from the Board of Appeal only removal of the restriction that limits the roof deck to 150 square feet or so. And by the way, that's about 15 feet long by 10 feet wide. 150 square feet, you're looking for 350?
367.
360, which would be altitude 30 feet long and 12 feet wide, or it's a very large area, and it's 2.5 times what you now have. But so that only removes the restriction. It does not dictate what you would then put there. Does the building permit, though, dictate what you would put there, that you have to submit a specific plan?
The specific plan
And that
was
the
that.
building permit will require you to construct according to that specific plan? And if so, why aren't we voting on a specific plan?
But here's what I tell you, I mean, you're right. I mean, that is the plan that was filed. So with all the green space, that was the plan that was filed with the ZBA. In the ZBA put a proviso of the VRA, the design review, absolutely they can. I'm a little concerned with making it specific to that. I mean, I don't know if there has to be a change for some reason down the road. I'm not saying for what reason. Maybe there's something, an emergency situation or something that has to be changed. I don't. Then you're stuck with that design. But we're going to work with the ZBA PRA design review so Dr. Green is comfortable that that's the plan. I mean, they've said all along that this is the plan, that they want to add some green space, and as you can see through this deck, it's majority of it, the addition majority of it is green space. And this is more private to both parties.
I would say, though, that the point that's made would be reassuring if that were done with the VRA. I mean, looking to the future, I mean, one of the concerns is that, as I can tell by having lived there for so long, is that nothing stays the same. And people aren't always the same. These are lovely people who are living there. But if it were to change, it would have, and if the agreement were thrown away, it would have a terrific effect on us.
We'll work with this.
Pretty much the same thing. I'm just concerned for the abutter in that there's no way to enforce the maintenance of the plants. You know, everything could be put in, but if maybe the building is sold, or even if the building isn't sold, if the owner decides, well, I don't feel like paying someone to be out there and I'm too busy to do it myself and the plants die, it's like...
Can you just add your name and...
Oh, sorry. Kathy McDonald from the Prince Building.
I can say, and I don't need to speak for Allison and Mike, but as a designer, I'm going to say we've worked with Allison and Mike for a very long time to develop a plan. The level of commitment and the level of outreach that this client has done is not typical, I have to say. It's really, we've been very sensitive to neighbors, the process, including them in conversations and things like that. So it's certainly a situation where the client I cannot tell you we have clients that are just like, we're going to do whatever we want because we live here. The Bonnies are not that type of people. They're an exceptional client that is...
So is there some way you could put that in writing that you're promising the abutters that you will maintain it?
As we said,
Or
we'll work with the city officials.
If they were to 2 or 3 years from now sell the building, that the buyers have to be made aware of this 150 square foot limit was released, provided you guarantee that this greenery is maintained, and if you don't want to maintain the greenery, you have to put it back to them. Something like that.
We'll work with the city officials.
Because you never know, they could be very happy there and then just decide they don't want to be.
I just want to point out that just a comparable we've had recently, 3 to 5 Quincy Court, which this group ultimately voted against because the abutters were never satisfied. But the lengthy process of discussion between the abutters and the developer included putting things in writing. And it is not the case that the VRA and the ZBA is the appropriate place to do that. And I'm just saying it is certainly possible for the developer and, or the owner and the abutter to strike a side agreement. And in fact, in my many discussions with the BRA, and I promise I'm not going to talk much about the BRA, but they have drummed in my head that the reason why urban renewal zones are so important is because LDA's land disposition agreements, which is what the BRA is built on, include all sorts of encumbrances and provisos for properties, and those things need to carry forward. Encumbrances and provisos is just standard in the real estate area. So I mean, I just, from a point of information, the last big variance that we had come up did have that, and so it is possible to put that in.
It's possible you could do a memorandum of understanding.
Yeah.
However, how enforceable is it? I don't think it's probably less enforceable than working with the city officials and
But if you're
getting
willing to
a
do
design
it,
review
then just
from
do it.
BRA or the.
And I think it's important to differentiate a developer versus somebody who is improving their home in which they live. This is not a developer. This is a family that lives in a home that they've purchased.
And so you said, Ms. Fonnie, yes,
Yeah,
please.
I just, a couple of points. I understand the concerns. Been working on this for almost a year now to make sure that we've gotten everybody's concerns covered. But there are structures being built as planters that will likely mean, and I don't have a problem putting a proviso in that somebody has to maintain it, but they're being built as structures that are planters. Very easy for somebody to put planters in, or plants in. Currently, it's an ugly black roof, so the structure for somebody to move in and just put plants in is there to great extent for us to put it in there. I mean, we want it there. I'm not suggesting that we don't. So I think it's a valid concern, but I think we've addressed the concern to a certain extent by putting in the hardscape that will be very easy for some other person to fill in. And the other thing that I think, the privacy issue, I think we've really addressed by creating a buffer that currently is not there at all. Those are just the 2 points I wanted. I felt like they weren't being.
Good. Great. I'm going to ask Mary to speak, and then I'm going to go back to the doctors. The doctor's ultimately the one who's going to say whether or not you've addressed the point to his.
Mary McGee, Snowdale Street. As someone who was here in 2012 when the previous owner presented, I would just like to say, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. We don't have new plans. We don't have anything in writing. How can we vote on this? The previous owner came in, made all kinds of assurances. He was a family man. He needed a garage. He got curb cuts. He took away parking spaces. The building is tremendously overbuilt. It's an ugly building in my opinion, but that's neither here nor there. But the fact is that the new owners have the total benefit of all of that was really, I feel, putting one over on the neighborhood. I don't think that man ever lived there one day that I'm aware of. These people may be lovely people, I'm sure they are. They're here 2 years. Who knows what they will do? They want to be 9 feet away from this gentleman's window. Would you want that? I wouldn't want that. So you want it, you want to be good neighbors, you have good intentions, put it in writing. And never mind a little memorandum of understanding. I want to see the plans.
Well, the plans are here, and I don't want to mistake Dr. Khan for the Bonnie's. Bonnie's been here 2 years. This is their home. They have every intention of being there. This certainly provides more privacy, as Ms. Bonnie has said, because as of right now, they have access to their entire roof, even though it's 150 square feet. We don't have to get into the windows here. I mean, Dr. Green and we all discussed the windows that are there. It's a great plan. Please don't mistake the Bonnies for Dr. Khan. It's a beautiful building. It went from 3 families in a commercial space to a single family. I don't think we're gonna, even if they choose to sell, I don't think we're gonna get students in there. This is an expensive property, single family, and I think it's and makes the value of the properties a lot better than what was there before. I mean, I respectfully disagree that this building doesn't improve the neighborhood than what was there before.
Okay, quick question. Do you have a hearing date?
No. City's doing things a little differently. Once we complete our neighborhood process, this will be it tonight. We'll talk to Maria, we'll schedule a hearing date.
Well, the reason I ask is whether it's possible to defer, because what I would like to vote on is to support or oppose, not oppose or oppose, a plan. And I'd like to see a plan satisfactory to Dr. Green and vote on that.
Safety issues bring up Jim Salini of Charter Street. They grilling food on that roof deck?
Yes.
I believe that's against the ordinance. Is it grilling food on the roof deck?
Not if the gas is
No, it's
plugged.
the gas is plugged in.
Which is-
You can't have a
which is
tank.
currently-
You can't
yeah.
put a tank, gas tank.
If you're connecting the gas in what's called a hard connection, you are allowed to have a barbecue.
You need a permit for that?
They already have the gas on the roof, so it's just connecting the barbecue. The gas and the water are current amenities that are on the property. We're not asking for additional amenities that aren't already there. We're just asking for the ability for the bodies to take advantage of the property that they want.
So if it was a standalone propane grill, we wouldn't need it.
Correct.
Doctor.
I would just like to say that I think that I think a plan and an agreement would be greatly appreciated, because it's a security for us should things change. Unfortunately, things do change. We can't be sure of that. And if they do change, then whatever happens will happen. We will have no recourse.
Down in Salem Street. This is what I don't understand. They already have a roof that's there, so they just want to make it bigger to make it bigger, so they can use the rest of their roof. How big do you actually need it? How many people live in a building that they need it that big? Why aren't they satisfied with just what it is and put a little extra shrubbery so they don't have to look at a black roof?
Well, I mean, that's exactly the reason. I mean, right now, it's 800 square feet of roof. The majority of it is covered with black tile. You get 150 square foot of a deck. They want to beautify their roof deck.
I understand what I'm
Right,
saying.
and-
Why do they have to go from 150 to 300 feet of a deck?
It's almost like asking you in your home, would you like to use half of your living room, or would you like to use?
Okay, but it's not the same, it's a
Roof decks
deck.
are
They're just
totally
going up
different.
there to relax, whatever. They plan on having like a lot. I'm satisfied, just 2 people live in my house, I'm satisfied with the size. So I'm not gonna go move to something bigger because it's bigger. I don't understand why he's gotta go. I mean, clearly it's upsetting the abutters, the doctor. Why can't they just build, if they don't wanna look at the black tile, why don't they just put greenery there and be satisfied with their 150 feet? There's no, why do they have to?
Well,
go to
they're
100 feet?
the majority of it is green space that they're adding to the roof. They want to, I mean, they have a right. They want to use their roof, darling. I mean, they have a right to use their property, and they want to use it. And we have no problem working with Dr. Green, putting some in writing with the bodies, but, I mean, let's make no mistake about it, those windows are illegal. I mean, we've talked about it, and it's created a privacy right. You can't put windows on a party wall. They were put in there. I haven't seen any permits. I've gone back on my research, and had those windows not been there, hey, no one said anything. Had they not been there, we wouldn't be standing there. This be an easy issue, but because, and I'm not saying Dr. Green didn't put those windows in. Dr. Green moved in there, those windows were there, but they are illegal windows, and because there's some illegal aspect here, the bonding shouldn't be prevented from moving forward.
Stephanie's been having her hand up for a while, and then.
Two things. Presumably the Bondies, when they purchased this building, were aware of the previous hours.
Maybe, I'm not sure if they were.
Well, I would think you would do due diligence in real estate purchase, about your protect. And the other issue is, it doesn't sound to me like the doctor has something in place that he is comfortable with, that is going to survive a potential sale of this building should that happen. And NEWRA is an organization that usually votes on a plan that satisfies abutters. So I think we should consider deferring this vote because we're not being presented with plans that the doctor has indicated that he's comfortable.
We talked to the doctor. I mean, if it's the consensus of the association to defer, we'll sit down with Dr. Green, but we talked to the doctor, especially prior to the new meeting. His window is here. We're talking about this space right here. We've made a commitment that we're going to move that space. I mean, the meeting was only Monday, so today's Thursday. I think we have a commitment. There's no problem from the Bonnie family to do that. And they have every intention of doing that, and they've been good neighbors, and they will do that. I mean, go.
Can you indicate on here where the original deck is versus what's being added? Because I feel like these numbers of 150.
They're abstract. They're very
abstract because most of that 300 is green. The current deck is
the current deck is essentially this.
So what's being added is a walkway, essentially, a place for the grill and a walkway.
And what we've talked about in the past with Dr. Green and in other meetings is, you know, the ability to stand here and the current deck and look into, you know, the amount of privacy that they have is not increasing or decreasing, save for where we're adding plants that would begin to filter the view from Dr. Green's residence to the deck. You know, 4 feet is essentially where we're adding its usable space, which is a walkway in front of those doors.
But the only problem, of course, as the deck gets larger, the 4 feet brings it 4 feet closer out of 9 or 11 feet, which is half the distance that's there now. So the field of view of someone increases. That's why it's important to have the deck to the left. But I think the important issue here is really not so much the bondings, but also knowing what the future would hold. I mean, you can't predict everything in the future, but if you can be careful in the future and the plan. If this plan were left and the shrubbery were not there, it would be very difficult, I think. If it was.
I think well, Stephanie, it's very brief because I want to.
Yes, yes, Mr. President. This isn't the forum for the abutter and the property owner to work out the issue.
Yeah.
Therefore, I move that we defer.
Okay, I'm going to let Victor make an alternate motion.
Well, if only if Stephanie agrees.
Yeah, hear what Victor is going to say, and then there are two things. Because I agree, I think that there's more stuff that needs to be done here. But
well, I would move that we vote to support or not support based upon the execution of an agreement between the property owner and Dr. Green that is recordable, that includes reference to a plan that is satisfactory to Dr.
So, I mean, there are two options. We could either vote on what Victor, we could, with three options actually. We could defer, like Stephanie's suggesting. We could vote on the, you know, the provisoed version of it. Or, you know, we could you know, you could take your chances and vote on the non-proviso version of it, or we could take votes on both and see how they do. You know, I personally would prefer that we vote on something because I don't want to defer and then have the whole presentation again next time. But you know.
Well, Stephanie has made the first motion.
So you make the first motion. What do you think of Victor's?
Was there a second?
Yes, there was. Back here. Tom seconded.
This is a...
I really want to protect the abutter here, and it doesn't sound like he's comfortable
right,
at all.
but a motion to vote on something with a recordable, with the requirement for a recordable side agreement that the abutter is comfortable with takes care of that, doesn't it? Dan may not want us to vote on that, though. I mean,
Can we vote on
The motion was
on
to
the motion?
defer.
And it's a motion and a second.
Unless you
well,
withdraw.
if you want to vote, if we want to have a hand raised vote on the motion,
I think the group should decide whether or not we should defer.
Yes.
Yes.
Seconded.
The motion on the floor, has it been seconded?
Yes.
it has been seconded. Do we want to use the paper ballots or do we want to do a hand vote? Okay, let's see. We're going to defer. So support would mean defer. And oppose would mean don't defer, okay? So I just want to be, because it's going to be, you know.
Mr. President, we agree to defer.
All right, okay, all right.
We'll work things out with Dr. Green, we'll figure something out with Dr. Green, make sure he's comfortable. He was comfortable the other day, I'm sure he's going to come happy again.
Okay.
And that's it.
And we can be comfortable that,
And then-
that Maria won't get a hearing date for you before our next meeting.
Okay.
No, I don't know. I'm going to go forward and try to get a date, but it won't be before December, the next day. So, but if we work something out with Dr. Green and he's happy, the question is, do we have to come and present again?
I think it'd be nice to come back to the ZLC and, yeah, and then to get us to vote, but we can do it very quickly. But yeah, and again, I think the key is going to be a recordable agreement. So that's great. So we're deferred on this. Yeah, and that's fine.